Rule: skip the video, rewind to the middle. Turn off the video is still a loss. Are you ready?
Waianapanapa Caves. On January 29, 2017, a seemingly carefree vacation in Maui, Hawaii, took a tragic turn for 32-year-old Gregory Wilhelm. He was visiting Waianapanapa State Park with three companions. During their exploration, the group came across the entrance to the Waianapanapa Caves. Like many visitors before them, the group, consisting of 2 men and 2 women, decided to take a dip in the illuminated pool near the cave's opening. While the women remained by the pool, Gregory, driven by a sense of adventure, persuaded his male friend to venture into the cave with him. Lacking proper equipment, Gregory used his phone, placed inside a plastic bag as a makeshift flashlight. The women stayed behind at the pool. Gregory and his friend proceeded into the darkness. After a short distance, they reached a point where the water deepened to their waists and encountered a large rock obstructing their path. Beneath the boulder lay a deep pool, a known spot for divers. Deciding on a brief, approximately 1-minute dive, due to the absence of diving gear, they submerged. Gregory, being the only one with a light source, led the way. They soon realized the depth was more significant than initially perceived. Driven by curiosity, Gregory ventured further into a narrow passage. However, as the water level started to rise, his friend, gripped by fear, swam back to the surface in complete darkness without alerting Gregory. Eventually, Gregory, needing air, attempted to return, only to find himself engulfed in darkness. Panicked, he desperately searched for a way out, eventually finding a small air pocket. He quickly realized the unpredictability of the cave, with its fluctuating water levels, strong currents, and powerful waves. Forced to make a swift decision as his air dwindled, he continued deeper into the cave. Meanwhile, Gregory's friend miraculously resurfaced at their initial diving point. Finding no sign of Gregory, the 2 women entered the cave and discovered Gregory's friend in a state of panic and disorientation. Recognizing the danger Gregory was in, his male friend bravely re-entered the cave in complete darkness. He instructed the women to shout, using their voices as a guide to navigate back. After a third dive, he spotted a faint light in the distance, which grew brighter as he approached. It was Gregory's phone. However, Gregory was nowhere to be found. He returned to his friends, and together they hurried out of the cave to alert the Hana Fire Department, who immediately dispatched rescue teams. Later reports indicated that Gregory had become disoriented in a confined passage. Each failed attempt to retrace his steps only heightened his panic. Tragically, he made a wrong turn, and by the time he tried to find his way back, it was too late. He drowned in the darkness. When rescuers finally arrived, they located Gregory's body 75 feet deep within the cave. Goss Canyon tragedy. On September 17, 2000, brothers Michael and Paul Hayden decided to explore an abandoned well cave located in Goss Canyon, La Crescenta, Montrose, California. The cave was familiar to them, having been visited many times during their childhood with their 4 siblings. This particular cave had dry ledges, holes, and a pool of water approximately 100 feet deep, situated between water shafts overhead. They entered the cave through a small 3-by-4-foot opening that led to a horizontal passage about 50 feet in length. Paul, a master sergeant and an experienced scuba diver with the Air Force Pararescue Force, took the lead. He was equipped with scuba gear providing 2 hours of air and had a GoPro camera mounted on his head to act as a light source. Meanwhile, Michael remained near the pool to monitor his brother. They utilized a rope tether system anchored to a large boulder in the main cave. Michael would tug on the rope to check on Paul's status, and Paul would respond with similar tugs to signal he was all right. For the first 20 minutes, their communication system functioned perfectly. Then, when Michael gave 2 tugs, expecting a response, he received none. Pulling again, he found the rope taut and unmoving. Initially assuming Paul was stuck, Michael pulled as hard as he could. When there was no change, he immediately exited the cave to seek help from the local fire department. He knew that Paul had only 90 minutes of air remaining. Fortunately, the local fire department responded swiftly, along with the LA Sheriff's Office and the LA Fire Department, quickly arriving at the cave entrance to initiate the rescue. Analysis of Paul's GoPro footage revealed the exact moment he removed his regulator to breathe air from an air pocket within an abandoned water shaft. The air within these pockets, whether formed in abandoned water shafts or naturally within the cave, did not circulate. This resulted in contamination from decay gases emanating from the surrounding soil, rock, and organic matter, as well as gases released through water erosion of stones. This led to a dangerous increase in carbon dioxide concentration. Although Paul was a skilled scuba diver, he was not a certified cave diver. He was aware of the risks associated with the air pockets in caves and typically carried a lighter to test oxygen levels before removing his regulator. However, on that tragic day, he did not have his lighter and assumed the air was safe for a brief breath. The footage also depicted the walls of the shaft before capturing Paul's submersion in water. As he made no attempt to replace his regulator, he lost consciousness almost instantly, becoming incapacitated and inadvertently poisoning himself with CO2. He died within a minute or two as he sank to the bottom. Santa Rosa Blue Hole. Tragedy. The Santa Rosa Blue Hole tragedy unfolded on March 26, 2016, when two experienced cave divers embarked on a perilous expedition to chart an unexplored segment of a cave system in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. Sadly, a devastating event occurred. The deeper caves beneath the floor had been sealed off in 1976 after the deaths of two divers. In 2016, following the reopening of the entrance, a team of 10 individuals, including seasoned cave divers Mike Young and Navy veteran Shane Thompson, dedicated 3 days to exploring the newly accessible tunnels and chambers. On the final day, Mike and Shane planned to investigate a particularly confined area at a depth of 140 feet before proceeding to another narrow opening at 165 feet. Shane was instructed to remain in the open area and not venture beyond the second opening. Past the 165-foot mark lay 5 more tight squeezes before reaching the cave's known limit. Mike, following a pre-established guideline, navigated through boulders and squeezed through tight passages, carrying tanks on his side and a rebreather unit. Shane had been following Mike up to the 165-foot opening, where Mike instructed him to wait. However, as soon as Mike disappeared from view, Shane decided to follow, defying their agreed-upon plan. Mike remained unaware that Shane was directly behind him. Shane followed the guideline along a rocky path, over large boulders and sharp bends until he reached a narrow 3-foot opening. At this point, the water was heavily laden with silt, and he encountered another tight passage. He turned his body and attempted to pull himself along the wall, but his back-mounted rebreather became snagged on a rock protruding from the tunnel ceiling. With one arm extended forward and the other touching the cave wall and the guideline, he twisted, attempting to free himself. He soon realized that he was trapped between the rocks. Moving backwards risked damaging his rebreather, which would have been extremely dangerous. As he panicked, his breathing became rapid and shallow. Suddenly, Mike's arm struck Shane's head, and they found themselves face to face at a depth of approximately 195 feet. Mike was surprised to see Shane there, and Shane explained that he was stuck and needed assistance. Mike spent several minutes attempting to free him, but they both began to panic as the tunnel was too narrow for both of them to maneuver. With Shane still trapped, Mike finally pushed Shane in just the right way to dislodge his rebreather and pulled him through the tight spot. Shane then retraced his path through the restriction he had just escaped, scraping himself on the rocks but managing to avoid getting stuck as he had the first time. Mike followed, but soon noticed that Shane had inadvertently moved the guideline, leaving Mike unable to see the correct path through the boulder-filled passage. Meanwhile, Shane continued along the winding path and encountered yet another narrow passage. Still in a state of panic, he moved too quickly and entangled the guideline around his legs. He managed to free himself, but lost the guideline in the process. His heart began to race and his breathing quickened. This was particularly dangerous because rebreathers require controlled breathing to function correctly. With no clear exit and only tight holes surrounding him, he was unable to reach the guideline he had seen just outside where he was trapped. He began to hyperventilate and could not calm down. At that moment, Mike reappeared. Seeing that Shane was severely distressed, Mike maneuvered around the rocks to find an opening. He grabbed Shane by the shoulders and turned him around. Shane, seeing a way out, lunged forward and swam under Mike, but he became trapped again, this time beneath Mike's body, unable to move forward. In desperation, Shane thrashed and kicked while Mike protected his face from the blows. During the struggle, Shane's heels tore Mike's suit and scraped him against the rocks before Shane finally broke free. Afterward, Mike realized that he was still able to function and that his equipment was mostly intact, except for a ripped suit valve that was allowing the 52-degree Fahrenheit water to enter. He had also lost a fin, but managed to retrieve it. Soon after, with his nerves shattered, Shane continued along the guideline, determined to escape. His rebreather could not keep pace with his rapid breathing, so he switched to his emergency bailout tank for air. Approaching another series of tight squeezes, he pulled himself through with all his strength but became stuck for the third time, and this time Mike was nowhere in sight. Meanwhile, Mike had climbed a short distance and discovered a hole leading back to the guideline. Believing that Shane had gone ahead, he followed the line upward toward the next restriction. Feeling tension on the line, he assumed that Shane was pulling from the front. At the next tie-off, however, Mike realized that Shane was actually behind him, still attached to an earlier part of the guideline. Fearing the worst for Shane, Mike backtracked through the tight passages and boulders, but soon the line stopped moving, a sign that Shane was in serious trouble. Pressing on, Mike discovered Shane wedged tightly in a narrow opening, lifeless and no longer wearing his rebreather mouthpiece. His bailout tank was empty, his suit was torn, and the cord to his dive computer was ripped. The way it was suggested that Shane had fought hard to free himself but had not survived. Mike tried to free Shane but soon realized he had to begin his own exit and report the tragedy to the rest of the team. He returned the next day to recover Shane's body, having navigated those tight, maze-like passages through the boulder field all by himself. Culverson Creek tragedy. On November 28, 1985, at approximately 3:45 p.m., a group of 7 cavers entered the Fuller's entrance of Culverson Creek Cave, a cave system located in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. This system was 20.8 meters in length. Their initial plan was to explore Friar's Hole, but due to high water levels caused by heavy rainfall, they were compelled to choose a cave less susceptible to flooding. None of the cavers had previously visited Fuller's entrance. The entrance passage was a canyon, varying in width from 5 to 8 feet. A stream, 6 to 12 inches deep, flowed rapidly over small, loose rock slabs. Roughly 50 feet inside, on a downward slope, a boulder was situated in the middle of the passage, with the stream flowing alongside it on the left. At 3:50 p.m., 3 cavers had already passed the boulder, while 3 others were in the process of doing so. Leading the group was 26-year-old Eric Sakal. As Sakal reached the center of the boulder, it unexpectedly tilted to the left. Despite the cavers' attempts to prevent it, the rock shifted, trapping Sakal by the head in an upright position. One caver immediately left to seek assistance, while the remaining 4 attempted unsuccessfully to move the boulder. One caver then supported Sakal from below, while 3 of his companions searched the entrance cave for any tools that could be used as a lever. They tried using old truck parts, but these proved ineffective. One caver was dispatched to retrieve a hydraulic auto jack, and another contacted the Eastern Region Cave Rescue Network at 4:10 p.m. Within 30 seconds of the rockfall, Sakal lost consciousness and ceased moving after about 1 minute. At 3:59 p.m., John Evans, a member of the group, observed that Sakal's pulse was still strong, despite his unconscious state, and noted a trickle of blood from his left nostril. Around 4:20 p.m., the hydraulic jack arrived at the scene. With the help of the jack and some crowbars, the team was finally able to shift the boulder. Sakal was carefully moved to a dry spot approximately 20 feet away, and CPR was immediately initiated. The Rennick Rescue Squad soon arrived, and a paramedic took over CPR at 4:29 p.m. Sakal was evacuated on a stretcher and reached a hospital by ambulance. Despite efforts to establish IVs and administer cardiac drugs, his condition did not improve, and he was pronounced dead at 6:05 p.m.
I don't think you'll be able to click on the next video until time runs out. 3, 2, 1, you last.